What is Tumblr? Why was it created? And when was it created? Michael, Vsauce here. Tumblr was made in 2007 by this guy named David Karp, who I think just had the intentions of making it a social site like Facebook and MySpace. It had the same aspects as MySpace where you could edit your HTML code and make your website your own personal creation. This is what mine looks like right now. In Tumblr, you had your own fandoms, you had your own blogs, you had cooking, you had bands, you had anything you could really imagine on there, maybe a little bit too much to imagine. And so in this video, I'll be mostly talking about my personal experience with Tumblr, and I know a lot of people can relate on this, so I thought it would be fun to talk about, especially as like a first video. So gather around, drink some hot chocolate if you want, that's what I have here, and just enjoy the awful, rich, dark history of my Tumblr experience. Imagine this, you're 10, you just moved to a new state. New school, new friends. I didn't make any friends, so you know what I had? My mom gave me an iPod 4 Touch that was broken and refurbished that we got on like eBay, I think. And I also had unlimited internet access, so can you see where we're going here? For me personally, I use Tumblr as like an escape from reality and to find, niche communities that I was into and maybe make some friends on there. And it honestly brought me nothing but good and bad. I'm gonna be going over like the holy trinities on Tumblr that took over. Like for example, the first holy trinity that I can think of is Super Hulock. Now with Super Hulock, you had the triangle. You had Supernatural, you had Doctor Who, and you had Sherlock. I never watched Supernatural, couldn't really get into it, but I was obsessed with Doctor Who and Sherlock. Doctor Who, I mostly watched the David Tennant stuff and Matt Smith stuff, never really watched the older ones. Couldn't get into it, but maybe one day I can try again. I was even so into Doctor Who that I cosplayed as Matt Smith at Comic-Con, and it was the worst cosplay to imagine, but I had the most fun doing it. And I even remember crying on my friend's floor over the fact that David Tennant was being switched into Matt Smith and just bawling my eyes out. And my friend looking at me and going, "Are you okay?" While I'm curled up on the floor, turned around. Don't look at me, I'm crying. Another holy trinity that did take over Tumblr in my personal experience was, I think it was Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and I think My Chemical Romance. I could be wrong. Tumblr also had its fandoms of just emo bands in general, like Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens, Mayday Parade, Never Shout Never. The list goes on and on. That could be a whole video in itself. Other bands that are pretty recognizable with the Tumblr era of 2012, 13, 14 was Arctic Monkeys, Cage the Elephant, Cigarettes After Sex. Something that you would regularly see on Tumblr if you were in this part of Tumblr was edgy quotes. Like you could just go on Google and look up Arctic Monkeys Tumblr and you would see the most edgy things ever, like Converse, thigh-high socks, and like black and white photos, cigarettes. You would see like people in chokers, you'd have like the scene haircut. I wanted to be that so bad, but I couldn't because I had the most shortest bleached blue hair you can imagine. I had this nose piercing. I was like 12, by the way, and I would wear Sonic t-shirts, and this is all making sense of why I didn't have that many friends. Also just the huge emo and scene rivalry was on Tumblr as well. That was like a war that was happening. But moving on to different bands, you also had One Direction that took over Tumblr. You had boy bands that people were obsessing over. And I do have to say, I was really into One Direction, maybe a little bit too much. I remember just like learning all the lyrics, all the dance moves to Best Song Ever. I remember when that music video came out, I opened my crusty, dusty laptop that was like 10 pounds and would just burn your lap immediately when you turned it on. It would take about 30 minutes to open Sunny Vegas and I'd wait patiently, crack in a video, start editing it, make it funny, post another song to like make it even more funny. Wait about 2 hours for a 6-second video to render just to post it on Vine, and that was just my proudest moments in history. And I'm sure there's like more bands that was represented by Tumblr, but this is just the circle that I was in. And there's more fandoms that I wasn't super into, but they were big, like Harry Potter and Homestuck. I didn't understand Homestuck. I never figured out how to really use it. I think it's an interactive webcomic, but I was scared by the fandom a lot. Like, I remember once a group and I went to Comic-Con, I think it was the same year I was dressed up as Matt Smith from Doctor Who. And I kid you not, there was about 50 Homestuck people cosplaying as, I think, one of the names was Keith, I think, sunglasses person, blonde hair. And then there was another person with like horns and I think glasses. I don't know. But I just remember seeing about 50 of them in a circle, and I felt like I was entering a cult when I walked into that. Because they were also playing some sort of like kissing game that I didn't understand, and I was 12, so I don't know what's happening. But I had a friend that joined the circle and was like, oh my god, you should come join. And then I got uncomfortable and I left with my other friends because I don't want to kiss strangers at age 12. Not for me. But obviously the list goes on. There's like K-pop fandoms on there that I'm also kind of scared of, and there's anime and so much more. The other fandoms that were also on Tumblr was like YouTubers like Tyler Oakley, Dan and Phil, Joe Snug, Casper Lee, all the British YouTubers. That was very big, and like the American YouTubers that would vlog with British YouTubers. That was really popular back then. Like an underground fandom called Team Crafted that I was super into, and that consisted of Minecraft YouTubers like Sky Does Minecraft, Kermit, Seto Sorcerer, Mudkip, Jason Universe, and just so much more that was in that group. But sadly it did fall apart, like most groups kind of do over time. But I was so into that fandom that I used to go on this website called Quotev and write fan fictions. And it got to the point where I was over, I think, 25 chapters, and it got over 6,000 reads, and I do have to say I was very proud of that. And who knows, maybe I'll even share that fan fiction in the future. That would be embarrassing, but kind of funny. Tumblr just had its wide variety of everything you could ever imagine. They even tried to host a comic, not a comic, but like a dashcon convention. It kind of was sad. Like, just one ball pit in the middle of a warehouse. I don't know if that's enjoyable, but hey, maybe people made some good memories. Tumblr also had its cons, as most websites do. For instance, trigger warning, these are the things I will be kind of briefly talking about. As someone being so young as I was to have access to Tumblr, there were a lot of eating disorder blogs, pro-ana blogs, self-harming. There was a weird large community of gore. People really liked to draw gore for some reason, but it did, you know, put me in the mindset of counting calories as normal at age 10, which it obviously isn't. But Tumblr just had its way of somehow romanticizing it and making these things into like a fantasy, which, fair warning, shouldn't be romanticized, as most, you know, mental health conditions. It really was just like an awful, shitty app, sadly to say, but it did have its good sparkle moments. Something that did happen to Tumblr in 2018 is that they did ban the use of adult content on it, which most members migrated to Twitter. But ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter, I think most of them are coming back to Tumblr, which it's been pretty funny and kind of active now, actually. Which I was gonna bring that on to Tumblr's downfall. I personally stopped using Tumblr about like 3-ish years ago. I still kind of go on it because I have like just meme blogs that I follow. And I feel like Tumblr has like one of the most unique, funniest, random stuff on there, like their post. I'll post some like examples here of just complete brain rot nonsense, but I find it hilarious. Something that also happens is that, you know, bots take over websites, as sad as it is. Like, for example, you would make an account and probably get like 20 bots within 10 minutes following you or messaging you or just liking your post, and it's just really discouraging to want to start to create something on Tumblr. But overall, I really liked Tumblr when I was younger. I had so much fun using it. I did create some friends on there, no longer talking to because life happens. But I do kind of wish for a new social media to arise that is like Tumblr, but that has more of a moderation to it, I guess. But all in all, social media is what it is. I love Tumblr, dear to my heart. I will always cherish it, and I'm sure I'll always use it in some sense. Like, it's also great for just getting references for art, or just, I don't know, if you can find your fandom on it, that's also great too. But anyways, that has been my first video about Tumblr. I hope it has been okay. I am also filming this on my iPad. I have nothing else to really film on, so hope this is good too. And yeah, thanks for watching, and who knows what will happen in the future. Okay. By the way, this is post watching the video and critiquing it too many times, but the reason why I'm looking here or here in the video is because the camera's here. But I'm not used to looking into a camera, so I'm looking at myself the whole time. But okay. Anyways, just wanted to tell you that.